So we will do this in 5, 5, 4, 3. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chronic Book Club. My name is Al Taylor. With me, as always, the Batman to my Robin, Chris Jakes.
Heyo.
And the Peter to my Parker, Mike Wood.
Yo.
More like the Peter to your Pecker.
Oh,
What up,
he will.
homies?
He will always be my Peter. Guys, how you doing?
You're
Good.
Peter Tingle.
Peter, I'm Peter tingling.
Instead of Spidey sense, it's Peter Tingles.
So
Peter Tingle.
this episode is going to be brought to you by Shitty Dispensary Dabs. But other than that, there you go. So that being said, guys, what are we smoking, Chris?
Well, as you just pointed out, I got had at a dispensary where I was told I was going to buy some of the finest New England cannabis had to offer, and I was fucking wrong.
Why?
They were wrong. So I got this really garbage rosin. No, they call it batter, which I want to go on record here and saying there's no such thing as batter. There's butane extracted oil, and there's the consistency that it gets made. But when they call it batter or shatter, that's when you know they're fucking with you. But anyways, I'm going to do, I did one dab of this. It tasted like shit. So I'm going to do the whole thing all at once, and I'm going to hit mute so you guys don't have to listen to my torch. But I'm just going to do this entire gram dab right now.
Well, we know what Chris is smoking. Woody, what about you, man? What do you got?
I've been stuck in Genosha for 3 weeks now, so I went around. I figured I'd find some weed. So I got a giant bag of weed, and I'm going to smoke a lot of it tonight. And I got some gelato. I don't know what it is. It's just some homies weed. So, and I got a little bit of gelato. So we'll be ripping that. I have enough weed to smoke joints, which are my favorite vessel.
Which is your awesome thing.
I'm a pretty happy panda right now.
Well, I really haven't gotten out of Genosha either because, obviously I have in the bowl my favorite indica, which is the Rainmaker Afghani Kush cross blend. I also grew about a pound of it this year, so of course I still have it. In the pen, I've got Grape Ape. My brother Zach got me some Grape Ape, and he's also been doing these things all week called hurricanes. He's like, so what you do is you take this for 5 seconds and then you do a dab hit. And I don't know, I'm coughing left and right, but anyway, so that's what I am smoking. Of course, Chronic Book Club, all the comics we're reading can be found on both Marvel Unlimited, over 25,000 new and classic Marvel titles, Captain America, Doctor Strange, man, all that good Marvel stuff. And of course, Comixology, 72,000 comics, publishers such as DC, Boom, Image. Speaking of booms, Chris, that looks like a pretty big boom. Holy moly.
It's green.
It's
Extract
green.
shouldn't be green.
Well, if it's one thing Comixology can promise you is no green dab. So check them out. Both available in the Google Play and the Apple App Store. Just a quick rundown. We figured a lot of our listeners who don't either read comics or read a lot of comics and maybe a little confused as to, what the hell's going on with Wanda Vision. So we wanted to kind of talk about the comics that coincide with the shows and the movies. So the three of us don't know what the hell is going on with the Wanda Vision right now either. So, we figured why not get some, information from 3 potheads who read a shit ton of comics.
Oh my God, look at Christy.
We know what we're talking about. In other words, you wouldn't have been able to do that with brown dabs, but with shitty green dabs, you can. So pretty much.
That's that chlorophyll in your lungs.
So pretty much what we're going to do is we're just going to, kind of compare what the MCU is using for source material from the comics and, holding a platform for those who read the comics with the three of us, a place to talk, discuss, and tear apart certain aspects of the comics in between the pages. So remember, hit the like, subscribe buttons, leave your own thoughts, comments, or different ways we either rule or suck.
Or send me your weed.
Comments below, or send Woody your weed. That being said, guys, we have been reading, of course, The House of M, written by Brian Michael Bendis. Olivier Coipel is the penciler. Tim Townsend is the anchor, and Frank D'Armata is colors. Guys, just gonna start right off the bat, and I'm gonna say issue 7 is probably the most important comic book to happen in the past 20 years. I mean, you think about it, it's right up there in the Marvel, at least in the Marvel universe, with Civil War. House of M number 7, I mean, it's one of my personal favorites. When I first read this comic at 25, I was blown away, and rereading it now at 41, I bet you Chris is puking. I bet you Chris took that whole dab and he is puking. Oh my God, we're so high. So, do you? Okay, he's not dead. That's
I think he needs some Warlord edibles.
Yeah, there you go. So talking about Chris,
am I back? Am I here?
Yeah, there you are.
Hey,
we figured you were throwing up, man.
He's fucking transcended time and space.
I'm good. That tasted terrible. Don't buy dispensary weed.
Remember, support small businesses and your friends.
Get your med card. Know your grower. That hurt.
Chris, I was just kind of catching everybody up, talking about how
most important comic in 20 years. I heard it was good.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I first read this when I was 25. Reading it now at 41, I mean, the writing, the art, kind of catch everybody up to where we are now in the House of M. The Scarlet Witch had kind of gone a little nuts and, killed members of the Avengers, and the Avengers and the X-Men really didn't know what to do with her. So, they thought maybe they had to kill her. And so the world went white, and pretty much everybody woke up having what they all wanted. And one of the biggest surprises was a Hawkeye, who Wanda had killed earlier, kind of showing back up. But up until now, pretty much our heroes have been waking up, and they understand what's going on. They understand that the universe has been changed, and they're going to fight the House of Magnus. They think it's Magneto. Now, question for both of you guys. We've read 6 out of 8 so far. Number 1, do you have a favorite comic up until now? Woody?
I mean, I just like this whole story arc because it's just like you said, dude. It's one of the most.
It's a classic.
It's such a fucking influential comic, dude. It's just like, I mean, I think my favorite moment has been the closing of maybe, was it book 2 or 3 when Hawkeye appears?
Yep.
And the last page is just that arrow pointed at you, and you're like, holy shit, Hawkeye's alive. And I think that, if you were waiting, if those issues were coming out and you were waiting for them, it's just like if you were to be left on a cliffhanger with a show, I'm sure you'd be like, holy shit, Hawkeye's alive, and he's trying to shoot me through the pages. And that's pretty fucking cool. So I think that's been my favorite moment so far, but I couldn't say a particular book. I mean, I'm such a story-driven person in general, so I enjoy an entire arc. You know what I'm saying? But I'd say my favorite moment so far was that ending of, I can't remember if it's book 2 or 3, but
book 2. Yeah.
Book 2 when Hawk comes back.
So, Chris, my question for you, since we are 6 issues in, I mean, obviously something big is going to happen in these next 2 issues, right? Dabs were awful.
My favorite issue was the issue with the full page spreads of Xavier crying and Magneto over Xavier's stone. Because I thought you were going to ask me the same question you asked Woody. And someday I'm going to figure out that you don't do that. But I thought you were going to ask me the same question.
Keep it fresh. Keep it fresh.
What was the question?
So, well, I want to know your favorite issue. So I'll say number 4 so far. So my other question was, since we are 6 issues in out of an 8-issue series, you know, something big has got to be happening in one of these next 2 stories, right?
Yeah, so Marvel has, no matter what writer works for Marvel, it's like Marvel has this like parasitic thing that gets into your brain if you're a writer for Marvel, and you have to set stories up in a very similar way almost every time. So if you're brand new to comics, get used to this. It's really big. It's like, you're 2 issues away from the end. Shit happens.
So, you know, and that's exactly what happens is, you know, shit starts to happen, you know, kind of breaking down the issue 7, you know, where everybody is fighting, and all of a sudden, you know, Pietro is holding his sister, you know, and you know, what is this? What is happening? You know, what have you done to my sister? You know, nobody at this point has any clue what's going on, but there's one person who's going to figure it out. And we have my favorite, Dr. Stephen Strange, coming in to just talk to Wanda. And guys, I don't know about you, but like, these next couple of pages, these next couple of panels, like it's creepy, right? Like creepy how powerful
Chilling.
Wanda Maximoff is.
I can't wait to get these kind of scenes in Multiverse of Madness, which for our viewers, this is the type of stuff that we get to look forward to in Multiverse of Madness.
Absolutely.
When Scarlet and Stephen Strange are going to be opposite each other in magical duels, or perhaps on the same team fighting some other greater magical being. It's going to be amazing to watch these 2 with their like cold, I don't give a shit about the world, I'm just magic, motherfucker kind of attitudes. And it's just like Clint Eastwood talking to Clint Eastwood, but magic.
Yeah, and you know, like you said this week, you know, the past 2 weeks on Wanda Vision, we have had Agatha Harkness, and going into the magic side of comics, guys. Like Chris, I think you figured it out pretty quick. Like I'm pretty big on the magic side of Marvel. So when they had, you know, this past week with like Agatha Harkness at the beginning, and it's, you know, the Salem witch trials, and you're just seeing like the raw amount of power, you know, like I thought that was cool. And like you said here, you know, be able to get a scene where, and I love how Doctor Strange, you know, I can hear it when he comes in where he says, you know, Wanda, you look well, you know, like no cause for concern. Like Doctor Strange just knows something is wrong. And
they'll do that word for word in Multiverse of Madness, I bet. Word for word.
Oh yeah. And you know, you have unfortunately not twins, but you have one of the children here, and it's creepy because you can tell, you know, when the little boy is saying that's what mommies do, and right behind it is Scarlet Witch going, that's what mommies do, you know, and just how easy, you know, when she says our friends are, Dr. Strange says our friends are fighting outside, and she just looks, I thought this was so cool. Like she just looks at the wall, and it doesn't explode, it comes apart. Chris?
Yeah, so I feel like it's really important to the viewer of WandaVision to know that the twins in this reality that we're looking at are not necessarily Billy and Tommy, Wiccan and Speed.
Absolutely. Yep. Great point. Thank you,
Also,
Chris.
can I say that I thought it was cool that in the last WandaVision, for the future, we'll say episode 8 of the WandaVision series. I think it was really cool that when you saw her building things, I mean, spoilers, but get off your ass and watch it already. You fucking if you're
This is not a
interested in it,
spoiler safe show.
yeah, like fucking deal with it. So the fact that they used that block puzzle work in the show when you saw her changing reality and stuff,
Yeah.
I thought was magnificent because it's just again they're honoring their past but bringing things into the future, which is always so important. You know?
Absolutely. And as Wanda Maximoff is, kind of breaking everything down, and the Doctor Strange is asking her, like, why did Magneto do this? And she's not right off the bat, she doesn't say, well, it wasn't Magneto. It was more like he wanted to protect me. He wanted to do what was best for me. And Doctor Strange learns, like the rest of us do, that it wasn't Magneto, but it was in fact Pietro. And
it was Pietro all along.
And I mean, if looking back on it, we look back to issue 1, Pietro was the one who looked at Magneto and said, they're coming to kill her and you don't care. This is my sister. And, Magneto just, he just won't do it, and later on in the comic, he does say, what have you done in my name? Boy, what have you done in my name? Man,
Pietro is such a bitch in this comic. He is such a I'm sorry, I shouldn't say a bitch. He is such a drama queen kind of just like character in this. He's so hyper emotional. It's just completely reactionary, over the top in this. I don't think either of the Quicksilvers that we've seen in movies represent the Quicksilver that we get in comics, who is this hyper emotional, hyper reactionary, I'm just gonna fix things kind of crybaby sort of character.
So here's our chronic book matchup then. So the team would be Pietro and Scott Summers against a blade of grass. Who would win? So blade of grass would get mad. As Doctor Strange is talking to Scarlet Witch.
Did the blade of grass have time to prepare?
If it did, it'd be no contest. Scott Summers would cry at that grass. Wanda Maximoff hits with a chunk, and boom, there she is with an arrow in her back, with the mommy in the bottom. And if you guys remember, Scarlet Witch was the one who killed Hawkeye, and that's pretty much, she comes back to say, like, this moment in the comic really, really got me. This whole spread, the panels, the way they're drawn, like, why you're asking, like, you can hear Hawkeye yelling. He says it. He goes, I loved you. Like, I truly love you. I'd kill for you. And I don't know if you guys read this too, but like, as Wanda saying it back to him, it's not like poor Hawkeye, Clint Barton is going crazy. And she's like, I love you too. Like, it's sincere.
Well, she did bring him back.
And that's what she says, she did bring him back. I thought this was cool how the arrow, even the arrow that she shot into him. She, boom, fuck your arrow, man. Exactly. And then she says, fuck Hawk, fuck you as well. The way like Olivier Coipel like drew this, I think is just mind-blowing. And I love the effect that like the colorists and shit, like they added how it fades afterwards, so it's like it's not reality, she can do whatever she wants. And she starts going crazy. I can't control any of it. And like I was saying earlier, Magneto finds out because Magneto and Pietro both become aware of the universe they are living in. And, Magneto, what have you done in my name, boy? And he's letting Quicksilver have it. Mike,
Wait, I gotta back you up. I know I'm really fucking high here, but Magneto was awoken by Lila. Quicksilver has Layla, sorry. Quicksilver has always been aware. Did Quicksilver have a run-in with Layla?
I believe so.
I thought he was just kind of always aware of the situation. I missed him getting woken up. I thought that because he created this and everyone gets what they want, he just remembered.
Well, and that's the thing is, I don't know, maybe I mistook it. I'm actually trying to look for the page now. I'm like, maybe I mistook the awakening, but I thought it was both Magneto and Pietro.
Because I think it's kind of important to the shittiness of Pietro's character that he was completely aware of this and created this whole new world and was fucking proud of himself.
Yeah.
Look what I built, Dad. What do you mean you're mad? I used your tools.
Man, you really don't
didn't put my screwdriver back.
That's kind of where Magneto comes. I mean, Magneto comes at him hard.
He does. And I can't find, I know Pietro goes and hurts everybody. Oh no, maybe it is just Magneto.
Because Emma Frost has Layla out at the
fight. Yeah, that makes sense. So pretty much anyway, back into our story. I mean, exactly, brother, but I thought this was just well written. I mean, what do you think? It's hilarious.
This week on Pornhub.
It's so hentai, dude. I just don't know what to do with it.
Brother! So Magneto
ends up... totally a tentacle down there. That's really what I read about this.
So, well, here's my question for you guys. That was Chris. I guess you're right, because I mean that's the one thing in her universe she couldn't control because he was there with her. So, wow, there you go, Chronic Book Club, man.
Again, I've read this
something
story
new every time you read it.
Read this story a few too many times because it is a tough one. I know this is our first one that we've really picked to do for our Chronic Book Club, and I think it's an important story because it's such a great place for people to become fans. But especially if you're a fan of the MCU, some of these characters don't feel like they do in the MCU. Now, Hawkeye,
absolutely not.
Hawkeye, when I hear Hawkeye talking, I hear Jeremy Renner's voice because this is a very Jeremy Renner Hawkeye. Wanda is very similar to our portrayal of the MCU Wanda in this story, but then there's other characters where Pietro doesn't resemble this character at all.
Yep. And
because Emma Frost is, an actual character with depth and not a piece of cardboard, there's the difference there.
So we have Magneto. Magneto obviously just killed, Pietro Maximoff, and she starts flipping out. Look at us, you chose hating mutants or hating humans over loving us, and not loving mutants, but loving his own children, and so the next, which is the probably biggest line changing in any Marvel comic ever, is no more mutants. Do you guys remember what you felt the first time you read that? Did you think it was real? Did you think Marvel was going to take it to the extent that they did? How about that, Woody?
I think just this alone just raised questions. it's when I saw the fallout that I was like, really? Like, what am I? It's just such, yeah, it's such a crazy place for them to go in the first place, you know. So that I think that I was excited more than anything, being like, where the fuck are they gonna go with this?
Chris, what does this make you think, man?
So I might have been in a very similar situation when I first read this to how many of our viewers are, where they might have already known that this line was at the end of the story. And I had already known that when I was like, oh man, I used to read comics all the time when I was a kid. I want to get back into them. And friends were like, you should read House of M. It's a great jump off point. I was like, why? And they're like, well, because they kill all the fucking mutants. They don't even kill them. They're just like, no more mutants at the end of it. And people just blurted that shit out at me. I was like, that sounds like a huge spoiler. How is that not ruin the story? They're like, that doesn't even come close to ruining the story. And I have to admit, I think that's really, really true. Because even if you knew this was coming, I don't think the moment's cheapened. Because you're still feeling this just pure, raw emotional reaction to, she just watched her brother die at the hand of her father because her father rejected the happiness of their family. That is an incredibly deep thing to be going through. And you can imagine how a person who's going through PTSD, who's already been through PTSD and is now living in their own PTSD kind of fantasy nightmare, there's nothing cheapened about this line about knowing about it. It's like when it's like knowing the ending of Star Wars. Doesn't matter. It's still really good. I'm talking about the first three. But what did I feel when I felt this? Knowing that it was coming, the previous page when she's screaming, I got this surge of dopamine where I was like, oh, it's coming. She's going to say it. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. There was this huge dopamine of like watching professional wrestling where you know he's about to jump off of the top rope. I knew it was coming, and it was still executed so perfectly that I didn't care. And I still was able to abandon knowing that line and enjoy it nonetheless.
Yeah. I'm actually like with Woody. The first time I read this, what I actually thought was going to happen was all the mutants on like the battlefield were just going to like, and it like that didn't happen, you know? And like what he said, it was more of the fallout, like, and afterwards, and being like, you know, I mean, 2005 was a tough year for Al Taylor. Oh, and comic books. But House of M, you know, you combine them together, and I did not think that Marvel was going to go that far.
You read this as it was coming out?
Yep.
Oh, you're so lucky. I read this for the first time only 4 years ago. That was 4 years ago is when I got back into comics and started becoming a devout reader. And that was when someone was like, hey, you should check out Brian Michael Bendis's work. I would have, I can't imagine how I would have felt if I had seen this panel that we're looking at right here when it had come out.
Well, and it was like the same thing with Civil War, you know. It was like that was weird at first though, but ended up being a great story. But Wanda Maximoff, you know, ends up saying the line, no more mutants, and a blast, and then everything turns to white, and that is the end of issue 7 of House of M. I mean, what do you guys at home think so far? Like, if you've never read the comic before, like, is that pretty shocking? How do you guys think they going to try to tie anything like no more mutants into WandaVision? You know, are they going to do something like that? Is she going to say maybe more mutants? Or like we were talking about last week, maybe everybody who lives in Westview is going to turn into a mutant because they have the same
He's working through it here, guys.
That's what I know what you're saying, and that's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, the cell structure of Monica Rambeau.
I think you still have to have the X gene. I think you still have to have the X gene. I don't think it's just going to be everyone in Westview are our first mutants.
Number 8, House of M. So as me and Woody were talking about, this is kind of our fallout. You know, we have heroes waking up, and we have Layla Miller. She wakes up. Peter Parker, he wakes up. Peter Parker not only wakes up, but he wakes up to Mary Jane Watson. So we know,
Never seen someone so pissed to keep waking up next to different women
different
that he loves.
It's like, oh, I love this girl. And you know, and we have talked about it in past episodes of how Peter Parker, if anything, you know, was he the person to lose the most? Was he the person to gain the most? Chris, I think you just made an excellent point when you said, you know, so upset about waking up next to somebody he loves, you know. That's very good way to put it, because it was Mary Jane and then it was Gwen Stacy, and now we're back to Mary Jane. And you know,
and
Peter
like Gwen
Parker,
Stacy's back to being dead. Like that's another thing. Gwen Stacy's back to being dead. So first he's like, I got everything I want. I got Mary Jane and I'm Spider-Man and life's hard, but I got everything I want. And then he gets transferred to another reality where he finds out that his wife would have been better off without him, and that what he really wanted was to be with his dead girlfriend from high school. And then he gets snapped out of that, and his dead girlfriend from high school is dead again. And now he's back with the wife who is apparently better off without him. Fuck Peter Parker, I just want to give you a hug, man.
I know. Who hurt you?
it's tough.
Who hurt you?
Everyone.
Who hurt you?
We did.
You know, and I mean, what do you guys think at home? I personally think, and it sounds like all three of us agree, you know, Peter Parker, Spider-Man has definitely had, for not being a mutant and not losing his mutant abilities, has had the shittiest experience out of fucking anyone. Although we do get Doctor Strange, who comes out because at Avengers Tower, Avengers are like, whoa, that was weird. You know, everything's back to like normal. And then we have Doctor Strange, who looks like he just spent a night drinking a 30-pack of PBR, a carton of Marlboros with like a couple of girls in a motel. And he's like, not. And tentacles. You know, so Doctor Strange obviously knows that you know, something is not right. And here back at the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters,
look at that
we have
look on Emma Frost's face. Let me just try.
Well, it's funny because she's
going on.
Actually,
like Pam Anderson mid Tommy Lee.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, I love you so much, Emma Frost.
Oh,
I love you so much.
that's a
So, and then back in the school, you know, unlike Avengers Towers, man, like shit is going down. You know, kids crying like, I don't have my powers. Like, what the fuck does this mean? Like what he said, this is when it really started to like sink in that like, well, maybe, you know, mutants don't have their abilities. And I love this, you know.
Oh yeah, I love that, dude.
Full page spread, which I think is a brilliant choice, you know, by the writer, but the whole like, I remember like my whole life. My whole life.
What
I remember.
And that is a lot, dude. That is like,
well,
So,
generations.
Let's give a quick estimate. How old are we thinking Wolverine is here? So in this era of the comic books, the year it is the year it is. So it's supposed to be actually like 2005, 2006 when this comic book is taking place.
Yeah.
So how old would that make Wolverine? He's what, pre-Civil War?
Yes, Wolverine is Yeah, pre-Civil War. I know it came out in 2002.
So like roughly 100 years-ish, he's remembering.
Yes, correct.
More than 100 years. Hundreds of years.
That's
He's
insane.
remembering all of it.
Shit,
all
he
at
hasn't
once.
been able to remember in years, you know?
Tiny
Wolverine.
little angry man.
Actually, Wolverine was born in 1886.
1886.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot to fucking remember
So-
all of a sudden.
And exactly, and I mean, not only a lot to remember, but like love, lost, like, and remembering all of it. And I think just the choice of a full page for something that significant, like, thank you, thank you. Emma Frost, considering that during all this time, one big thing we have not talked about is nobody still knows where Charles Xavier is. Emma Frost, being the powerful mutant that she is one of the few people who can actually use Cerebro. What you had asked before, we've talked about Emma Frost before, dude, that's should just go to show you like how powerful she is, and you can look at all the different mutants on Earth right now. And I mean, even looking at this, you only see like 5 dots so far, and you're like, is this real? Like, 6, 7, and when we actually back in Avengers Tower, they're having the discussion, they're watching the news come in, and the news is saying the same thing. One of the pictures I loved, I didn't put on here, but was a great one of Iceman, when Iceman comes out and he's like, oh, I'm sweating, so we know at least Iceman doesn't have his powers, so coming, oh, sorry, oh my god, I'm so high. All right. My hand later, like we had made the in 5.
Listening.
Avengers are all starting to put 2 and 2 together and said, holy cow, that whole fight, everything with Wanda, that was actually real. And like we talked about before, who said they had a lot to lose and a lot to gain from it? But Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, like Woody said, take it out. Chris said earlier, he was married to Mary Jane, and then she was so much better off without. And it's a lot for a person. And I thought that panel was important. And now, we know why, because
he's totally mind fucked right now, dude. He's just like this. He doesn't know what's real. It's fucking insane.
Any readers that are reading this story and are like, Spider-Man, this is an emotional Spider-Man that I can get behind. This is not the Spider-Man of the movies. You should definitely take this run and start reading the Amazing Spider-Man run that comes after this, because it is so
Absolutely.
much of him trying to deal with the aftermath of this. It's a great run.
It is. So our Avenger heroes, in the meantime, decide, well, let's, where is Wanda Maximoff now? Like, maybe we should go back to Avengers Tower. And we go back to Avengers Tower, and this kind of like struck me a little hard, it's kind of makes me feel, was Wanda here? Was Wanda the one who did this? Chris, what do you think?
Oh, I assume it was Hawkeye that did that. When I read that, my first thought was that it was that Hawkeye is somehow alive, and that he did that. That was my first thought. Am I crazy? Am I really that high? I'm feeling the non-existent viewers judging me through the internet ether.
And
I figured like, the way that Hawkeye kind of gave up being Hawkeye for a while, and became like the ninja Hawkeye in the MCU. I assumed this was like a hat tip to where he was going to be like, fuck you, Hawkeye, I'm out.
Well, Miss Marvel herself, Carol Danvers, actually, at the bottom of the panel says, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" Which is a good point for all. Woody, did you take it as Hawkeye was alive, or?
I thought he was dead, personally.
And somebody else did it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who you think did it?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'm glad we're here.
What does this mean?
Because
what does it mean?
Double rainbow all the way across. No, sorry.
So, and when we see here the I assumed it was Hawkeye too, Chris, because of the way the founding Avenger dead. And that having a hawk through it, he came back in whatever blip this might be. In the meantime, back in Genosha, actually right behind Woody, we have a Genosha that is definitely not a House of Magnus Genosha. It is back to its old decrepit form, and we are learning that Magneto has no powers. And for somebody who was
there is no fork.
There is no fork. With somebody who was always, very pro mutant and always for mutant causes, the biggest pro mutant guy in the world does not have his powers. That's kind of a big thing. And then the X-Men show up looking for Wanda Maximoff, and I love the whole schnick at the bottom with Wolverine. Like, oh, lost your power over metal, have you? Schnick. I haven't. Like, fucking badass. Like, so badass.
Yeah, Wolverine really shines here. He's just like,
and
I love that whole scene. Is pretty much all I'm saying.
So, coming towards the end of issue 8, we have Wanda Maximoff,
Little Red Riding Hood,
the Scarlet Witch, Little Red Riding Hood, getting some goodies before her grandmother's house she goes. And we get to the end, and as they start zooming out in the panels, they show she's somewhere in Europe, and they have this great line of, Sir Isaac Newton said, for every action there is an equal or opposite reaction. And so I'm asking, what will the reaction be? And as we know, there was huge fallout and huge implications of this in the Marvel Universe. So there we have it, guys. That is our whole House of M run, issues 1 through 8. I mean, Chris, I know how you feel. Woody, what do you think? Is this one of your favorite comics ever? Or?
It's pretty fucking cool, and there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, which is always what gets my nipples hard.
So a couple of those questions I was actually going to ask about was the other comic we talked about that we were going to be talking about this week is, of course, House of M, Decimation.
Before we move on to Decimation, I've got 2 things that I'd love to bring up about those last few pages of House of M. Is that cool? Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd like to bring up is, it seems pretty clear from you guys that have read House of M at this point. We're not talking about spoilers. We can get right through all those barriers. Pretty much everyone who got transferred over to the House of M universe and then came back and were mutants got to retain their powers. Most people who didn't get transferred over are the ones who lost their powers. Magneto is the only one who transferred over to House of M and then back to the 616 reality and lost his powers. He was punished specifically by the Scarlet Witch, even as reality was rewritten. That's the first thing that I have to bring up, because that is fucking heavy. How she rewrote everyone to just kind of go back the way it was, except anyone who didn't witness all of this, you don't have powers anymore. And by the way, Dad, fuck you.
Yeah, dude.
Seriously, it's so hard the way she hits him, and he's sitting there with a fork, and it's so fucking emotional.
How are you going to
and...
look cool at dinner parties anymore? You can't even move the fucking fork around.
And the other
Anakin style.
And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I think we should talk about a lot in that that upcoming video where we do the wrap up for the whole WandaVision series, but just really quick, is the idea that Wanda can create a reality and then also snap it out of existence, like she has an Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones. The fact that she has that power, that is one of the biggest takeaways to bring into the viewer's experience of watching WandaVision after watching House of M. There's a lot of things that happen in House of M that they have little hat tips to in WandaVision, but the biggest thing is she can create a new reality like that.
Exactly.
Sorry, Thanos reference.
How silly was that? Come on. Can we talk about Infinity Gauntlet at some point so we can go over how fucking silly all that shit was?
If we can just do a whole shitting on Infinity Gauntlet, I'm down.
There's these ancient gems, okay? And they're all powerful, but you have to close your hand in order to use them. That's the only thing. Just you have to. I know they can read your mind and they can tell what you're thinking, but you have to close your hand. And this cape will stop it.
That's funny.
Okay, Decimation. Sorry to detract, but I thought those last two pages.
Fuck whoever brought that up, and whatever meeting at Marvel, whoever's fucking idea that was, can suck my fucking taint.
So one of the other comics we were going to talk about was the House of M, Decimation, the day after, which had to do with a lot of the fallout from House of M. When we get to the end of our page 8 story, we know that our heroes have been I'm sorry.
Smoking too much weed?
Decimated. Our heroes have been decimated.
Our heroes are high as fuck.
I am fucking decimated.
So Decimation. So we were talking about House of M Decimation, which is pretty much the reaction after the action. What is Decimation? Written by
the reaction.
Also the reaction.
Also tough acting to acting.
Written by Chris Claremont. The No More Mutants was executed on November 2nd, and in total, 986,618 mutants were either killed or devoured by the Decimation. In the end, it was figured that only 198 mutants remained. Wow.
Which is bullshit because it should be a multiple of 10. Am I correct? It seems like a fucking cop-out.
We broke Al.
Excuse me, but why is your death numbers divisible by 10?
You can really round up there.
So in the Decimation, we're talking about, they're showing, right on the cover here. I love, they have the blob, looks like he just got gastric bypass surgery. And he's like, the day after, it's like, no. And you flip the page and it says, more French fries for you. But the day after, Fred Dukes, the blob. Here we go. We got, I thought Robert Hunter as one of the anchors was cool. So right in the beginning, pretty much what we're learning is that our different heroes, some of them have regained their powers, some haven't. We learn here that Beast is still the Beast. And when she talks about Lucas, we're obviously talking about Bishop. Lucas Bishop first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men 282 in November of 1991, created by Jim Lee. I'm a big Bishop fan. I don't know if anybody else is.
Awesome character.
Awesome character. He can kind of like pretty much MCU fans like the Black Panther suit without the suit. He can like absorb energy and then like shoot it back at you.
Oh, that's a really good way of saying it.
Yeah, look at that. Hey, you know, I've got my moments.
He
And
absorbs kinetic energy. That is what it's called. It's absorption of kinetic energy.
No, but
Very
like
true.
if Cyclops was to like blast him in the back, he could take that, multiply it within himself, and then direct that energy outwardly at an opponent.
He is absorbing energy.
He's absorbing it.
And later on in our comic, we actually learn that Cyclops actually blasts it on Emma Frost's back. But
Hey!
before we get to there, I thought this was actually a cool scene they have. So they have like mutant centers set up all over the world, and somebody drives a car bomb into the bottom of it. And our mutants throughout the story, you know, they start saying, oh, you know, that they're going to blame this. Here we are actually with Emma Frost and Scott Summers and his brother. Poor Scott Summers. And
Havoc. The
and we
man's
have
actually
Havoc
an
as
awesome
well.
character, and no one gives a shit about him.
Havoc is an awesome character. Havoc actually first appearance was in X-Men 57, and he is created by Neil
DeGrasse Tyson.
Ah,
wrong Neil, but like he's a good DJ. I like him. Who, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Don't you know his DJ name? It's MC Square.
Hey.
oh.
Thank you. I will be here all week.
Try the deal.
Try the feel. Oh, come on. My jokes aren't that bad. So back to our comic, our House of M Decimation. We are in the war room of the X-Men. They are showing a couple of mutants who actually lost their powers on what we are calling Emma Day. There's actually a couple I thought was pretty interesting was Jubilee up there. We have the Blob from the beginning.
So Jubilee went from being able to shoot fireworks to not being able to shoot fireworks. Got it.
Oh, she was
Tragedy.
She's the South Carolina of comic book characters.
Maybe the Delaware.
Yeah,
Oh
we're the
no,
Delaware.
we're not gonna have any Delaware viewers after this.
So here, Woody, one of the questions you actually asked about Decimation was about One and Valerie Cooper. So One is actually the Office of a National Emergency. It was actually created because of the events of House of M. And we had talked a little bit earlier before the show, when we had the cookies out, that it's kind of like how did Chris put it? A rebrand of Shield, a reboot.
So it's a combination. So it's a combination of, and this is a big summarization. This is taken a 12-course meal and turn it into a bouillon cube. But One is the NSA meets Shield turned wrong. So you got to think about like 2005, what was going on in America, not a lot of trust in the NSA. One is basically Marvel's version of the NSA. However, they're sort of like the anti-superhero, making sure the last mutants don't get into any wild stuff organization.
Weird, wild stuff, Johnny.
Weird, wild stuff. One doesn't last for a very long time in Marvel continuity.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
does have
because Bush didn't run a third term, so
basically, Marvel tries to keep with the fucking times, and I'll say they probably sit on, maybe one side of the scale, but they definitely like to represent the
Anti-authority.
the security state of America in general. They tend to represent the security state of America through these different organizations. Shield, and how it can be so easily and multiple times taken over by Hydra, is just like an example of how spy versus spy doesn't really lead to any great diplomacy.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely correct.
one is kind of 2005's Marvel look at the NSA and how they were looking at its own citizens. And one's main purpose in a post Brian Michael Bendis, post House of M world, is checking in on all the mutants that lost their powers, pretty much making sure they don't become terrorists. Is like their whole thing going through it. I'm really trying to narrow all of this down, and I will in another video, but this is big bottlenecking.
oh my god, the fucking bug lady.
So one of the
You might as well get your mind wiped of this. This is not relevant. It's just
So
absurd.
nuts.
It's just weird and disgusting.
So I figured her name is Hannah Levy. She's actually the Lizard Lady, and she made her last appearance in New Avengers 18 in June of 2006. So this character lasted for a year, Lizard Lady, where she eats bugs.
But what does she look like? She look like a lizard?
That I do not know.
Oh man,
I don't think she actually gets repowered. I think she might get repowered in the Terrigen thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember because
But they're
this
like,
is not
was a
worth
huge
remembering.
mistake. Yeah, she's like, they're like, this is a huge mistake.
I put that in there. Woody needed a good laugh, but as we were
Dude,
talking,
she's trying to shoot cockroaches out of the gun. She's
the
like,
bang
"Stop
bang,
killing ya."
bang bang. All right, Deadpool. So talking back to about one, Valerie Cooper. She made her first appearance in Uncanny X-Men number 176 in September of 1983. She's a special assistant to the president's national security advisor, and was perhaps
She's a
the most
professional snitch.
United States government's
Narc.
ongoing
Narc.
efforts to cope with growing number of superhuman beings in the nation. So that's exactly what she was. It's pretty much a narc.
Fucking narc.
She recognized that superhuman mutants were emerging throughout the world, and that both governments and private interests had begun to exploit their abilities. And how do you exploit somebody but put cockroaches in a gun?
Huh?
What a fucking weird scene, dude.
Yeah, that one fell about 14 feet from me.
Well, this whole me too, dude. I'm higher than a giraffe's balls. Like, give me a break for a second, okay?
So this next bit of the comic, and then going forward, we've got this thing where pretty much the X-Men and the last few mutants are trying to gather everyone up together, and Scott Summers is basically failing miserably. Where he's like, "Hey, mutant buddies, you should join with the X-Men because we should all be in one place when there's only so many of us left." And basically everyone he calls is like, fuck you. You're Scott Summers, and you're not the only people on the planet. We're going to help the mutants that we're helping while we can. So you've got Multiple Man, who's a really random character who doesn't get a lot of attention, and Guido, also awesome classic X-Men character, but these are characters that become relevant again and weren't really relevant leading up to Decimation. But then all of a sudden they have a little bit more relevance starting here.
So Storm still has her powers, yes.
Storm still has her powers.
Multiple Man still has his. What I actually found interesting was Multiple Man was actually created by Len Wein.
No way!
Yeah.
I love Len Wein.
Yeah, me too, man. So yeah, as Chris was Oh
Gross. Fucking gross. Gross.
Was she
no.
been smoking crack?
Well, and so
Scott
we have
Summers,
a
come over here. I need more crack.
we
Let's
we
make
have a
out.
lot of discussion about Scott Summers on this show, and my question for both of you guys was like, Emma Frost got coke lips, or is this her way of saying like, yo, I really don't want to kiss Scott Summers? Like totally, right? Like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe she saw Jean Grey in the bathroom one day and was like, he puts his mouth there.
So you know what this reminded me of, and I'll say this quickly so I can get fucking through it. But you remember Harold from The Stand, the guy that was like, "No, the end of the world was supposed to mean I was going to fall in love." Scott Summers trying to be like, "No, the decimation happened and we lived through it. Now I love you and you love me," is the same fucking vibe. Dude is fucking pathetic. Oh, we lived through another reality being created where you were forced to be married to me because it was my greatest desire. Guess we better have sex. Fuck you, Scott Summers. That's gross and creepy.
That is creepy. So anyway, like Chris said, they're calling in different people who are totally irrelevant, throwing out names. You got like Captain Britain here. Captain Britain, of course, appeared in Captain Britain #1, October 1976. He actually had his most popular run by Chris Claremont, so that's kind of why he was probably thrown into this scenario, into this issue. But back to our decimation again. Scott Summers, exactly like Chris said, trying to get everybody together, but people don't like Scott Summers. I guess
Fuck
it's
you,
not only
Scotty.
us. Back in New York City, I assume we have a hobo-ish looking man who smells, according to one person walking by, and all he wanted was the best. And I think everybody figured this out pretty quick. Chris, what do you think? Did he only want the best?
He fucking psychoanalysis on Quicksilver in the comic books. Yeah, he only wanted the best, what he thought was the best for Wanda, which Wanda explicitly made clear was not what she actually wanted. But I think this is something that I feel is important to Wanda Vision as a show. So I feel like I got the moment. She brought Pietro back to life from death, which is something that they've been dealing with in Wanda. Like, can she bring someone back to life? Not only did she do it with Hawkeye, she watched her dad kill Pietro, and then she brought Pietro back to life. So I have hope that Evan Peters is going to be Quicksilver in the MCU, and that's all I'm gonna fucking say about it for now.
Yeah, and remember to check out our other video where we talk about what we think is going to happen in Wanda Vision. It probably already happened by now, so look for the video. All I wanted was the best, and like Chris said, so Pietro, at this moment in his career, he's thinking, boy, if I was shooting an 80s rock video, I'd look awesome right now.
Looks a lot like his dad too. Very Magnus.
Do you know what that reflection screams to me is, what did you do in my name, boy?
Yeah.
It screams to me, Gillette, the best a man can get.
Here we are back at the Chronic Book Club, where we are lost in the sauce and talking about Decimation, how Cyclops, because he is a whiny little bitch, is having a hard time getting a bunch of people together. And not only that, but also seeing different mutants who have lost their powers. For instance, Jubilee, I too have shot fireworks out of myself, so I know what it's like to be Jubilee.
Yeah,
Remember
you
that?
do. Yeah, it was a Rebel promo.
Yeah.
We shot a bottle rocket out of your ass.
Wait.
Or no, a Roman candle. We had a Roman candle up your ass. And then we lit it on fire. We were like, come to our show. Because it was kind of it was like a play on how ridiculous human beings are. And the fact that we need to do things like shove Roman candles up our ass in order to get you to attend anything.
Were these in the Jackass days?
No, they were in the drunk days.
Ah,
In the
okay.
lots of mushrooms days.
Yeah, those guys are late to the party. Speaking of late to the party, here we got Wolverine and Colossus, you know, just kind of talking about everything that's happening as
How much
they're
he misses
out there.
farming.
Yeah, boy, I miss farming in the Soviet Mother Russia. And then who do we have come out of the woodwork to exact Xavier's school? Who are they, friend or foe? Who cares? And like Chris said, with most of the characters in Decimation, we're going to leave it at that, is who cares? Because somebody like the Memo Max is somebody you are not going to have to remember for the rest of your life unless Marvel makes a Memo Max movie.
It sounds like outdated 90s technology.
Hurry, grab the Memo Max.
Here, Memo Max. Don't worry, I'll remember. I have a Memo Max.
If your breasts are larger than 36 double D, you might need a Memo Max.
It's a memory foam bra.
No, I was saying for like a mammogram. Remember to get your mammograms.
Oh,
But you need
Memory foam mammogram.
there you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So, and of course, you know, next thing you know, we got Logan and Colossus in full X-Men outfit with Wolverine giving a no trespassing. And Colossus saying, and I like mutating trash even less. And he brought Snuffleupagus and Gollum with him. But what he didn't want to bring was Sentinels. And not just any Sentinels, but one Sentinels. And by the look on Wolverine, he can really smell it, bub. Was that better?
That was great, Al.
Now without embossing.
And then, you know, all of our X-Men outside to be continued, all with this look, because Sentinels usually have been sent out to kill X-Men and to hunt mutants. And if I had a bunch of them showing up at my school, my biggest question, even throughout Decimation, maybe those of you listening also have, is the question I am going to ask Mike and Chris is where is Charles Xavier throughout all of this? Does anybody know?
In a fucking mind stasis somewhere against his will. And that's we got to get to the bottom of that stank.
I'm going to go into this big time in that last page thing, that video that I'm going to do. Sorry, let me try that again. I'm going to go into this in the wrap-up video, but the search for Charles Xavier becomes a pretty big arc for the X-Men going forward. And if that's one of the questions that's really like plaguing you at the end of the story, then you should absolutely use this as a jumping off point to keep reading the X-Men. Because if anything, one, using the Sentinels and Chris Claremont writing this way was just kind of a way of like really hammering down on, we're going back to classic X-Men stories. The government hates minorities. That's what we're hitting here. And it's really a revitalization of what X-Men meant when it was first getting written. So if this is something that gets you excited, this big full page spread here with the Sentinels and Wolverine and Cyclops being the leaders of the X-Men, you've got every reason to keep reading from here.
And that was going to be one of the other things I wanted to talk about is, we've talked earlier about jumping off points, and the biggest three that I have definitely seen, if you guys listening want to keep reading, would definitely be X-Men, definitely Spider-Man. We talked about the trials and everything that Peter Parker was going through. And also it's a good starting off point for Avengers, because about a year later, we have a very, very significant event that happens. I don't want to give it away yet. If you haven't started reading Avengers,
Give it away now.
But
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the wrap-up video next week.
Absolutely. My question for you guys, both of you, same question. I know, Chris. But is what biggest questions do you guys have left? Chris?
For WandaVision or for House of M?
For House, I'm sorry. What biggest questions do we have left for House of M?
So from here, I'm super interested in the Hawkeye storyline, the X-Men storyline, even though it's like super obvious and just it excites me because it's like going to see a band that is going to kick ass. Like, I know what I'm showing up for. It's classic X-Men. And that Spider-Man run took me a while to get into reading, but it is really fucking good. So my questions are obviously, this is a reboot. So what's happening to these characters? And the two biggest questions are probably Wolverine can remember everything. Who's he going after first? And the next biggest question is how is Peter Parker going to deal with the world that he lives in?
Yeah, absolutely. Woody, what are your biggest questions after reading House of M?
Yeah, I think my biggest overall question is just how this event affects everything else in the universe and how it ripples.
Was there anybody specific who you were kind of looking for?
Definitely Peter Parker, like Chris said. I think that's one of my. I love Spider-Man, so that's what I would want to read first. But yeah, I think that with events like this, when they happen in comics, especially when they have these huge overarching events that go down and how much they affect the other characters is really interesting to me. So I think that, like Chris said, this is a really good place to be like, all right, now I'm gonna check out all these other runs to see what else is happening in the universe. It's cool. It unifies the whole run of all the runs together to make big crossover events, which is always glorious. So
yep. Yeah, that's great.
And of
great
course,
point.
where fucking Patrick Stewart is,
One of my other questions for you guys now pertaining to House of M and WandaVision. Like I've said before, I'll say it 1,000 times. Doctor Strange is my favorite. Given the big role he had to play in kind of calming Wanda down in House of M, do you think we're going to see a Doctor Strange intervention on WandaVision? And if not, what other powerful magic user do you think it could be?
Like the worst lawyer question ever. You're leading the witness here. You want us to say whether we think Doctor Strange is going to show up and use magic.
Well,
okay, I'm going to get into this a lot tomorrow when we start debating all the theories, but I think Doctor Strange is going to play a relatively minimal but kind of ass-pulley, like, here's Doctor Strange, all of a sudden kind of thing on Friday. I'll leave it at that.
So you don't think it could be any other characters from House of M?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the point of the question because you wanted me to say that that Doctor Strange is showing up.
Your Honor, can I have that last part stricken from the record?
House of M. I think that Pietro is going to be more important in WandaVision than he has been. I think that's going to be a big all of a sudden flippity-doo. So I think it was fun to watch how Pietro is a much bigger part of House of M than we thought he was initially. We thought he was just like, they're gonna kill my sister, but it was actually he was the one that like convinced her to do it. Yeah. I think mostly I don't think we're going to get a character from House of M. I think we're going to get a mutant / alternate reality reveal. I think the big thing that House of M gives us that is going to be used in WandaVision is that Wanda can create an alternate reality and be like, deuces, I'm going to this one. So I think, things aren't going to be going well and, shit's going to go down. Again, we'll talk about it tomorrow in the live video. I think things going to be not going well at the end of the series. And Wanda's just going to be like, I don't have to live here. I can create an alternate universe and then just duck out. And I think the fact that she did that in House of M, I think that's going to be the House of M parallel to WandaVision. I don't think it's going to be a character. I don't think... all of a sudden, like Luke Cage is going to show up or Peter Parker is going to show up. Man, it would be weird if Peter Parker showed up because, obviously Spider-Man 3 has something to do with it. But I don't...
Yo, you got to help me.
It'd be weird, but, in a post... Tom Holland in a post-credit scene wouldn't be unheard of. That is the next part of the multiversal trilogy. That is WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Multiverse of Madness. So it wouldn't be that ridiculous to see Tom Holland on Friday. But I think that would be like super minimal. No, I don't. I think I want to be on record here saying that WandaVision is much more closely related to the Vision Quest story that we're going to be going over next week than it has been on House of M. And if you're in any of the Marvel groups I'm in on Reddit or on Facebook, you know that I have been screaming about this for about 6 weeks now. So all of you House of M lovers, no, White Vision is in the series. Ha 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 ha.
Well, guys, with that leading into this perfectly, that kind of wraps up our whole House of M storyline. What do you guys think? Did you guys like the book? Leave your comments below. Remember to hit like, subscribe. As Chris also just mentioned, with Vision Quest, what we are going to be starting reading for next week is going to be West Coast Avengers, Volume 1, Issues 42 through 45. Which is the White Vision Quest. Of course, the comics we are reading can be found on both Marvel Unlimited and Comixology. Gentlemen, Chris, I'd like to thank you for all the editing you're going to have to do after this. But this was very fun. I can't wait until we read Vision Crest. But like always, guys,
Did you say Vision Crest?
It was Vision Crest, yeah. Vision Crest is like an ultra whitening toothpaste.
Anyway.
With Ultron whitening.
The Aquaman to my Aqua Boy, Mr. Chris Jakes.
See you tomorrow, bitches.
The Wonder Girl to my Wonder Woman, Mike Wood.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm Al Taylor. Check us out tomorrow night as we go live talk about WandaVision. But that being said, for the Chronic Book Club, I am Al Taylor. You guys have a good night and keep twisting papers and keep